We are doing our very first podcast, Angling Uploaded, with the incomparable Hannah Stonehouse Hudson. She's a speaker, she's a coach. She started the Life is Short movement. This is going to be exciting. Let's get loaded. Hannah, great to see you. We're
nice
friends. We've got kind of a long history. We haven't talked in a while, so it's great to see you. Ice fishing is getting closer and closer, and heck, there's people already doing it.
Yes.
I get very nervous this time of year. I like to know that there's plenty of ice on the water or whatever before I start venturing out. For me, I kind of start, around beginning of January is when I start going hardcore ice fishing. I understand there's great fishing early ice, but you know something about ice safety, ice fishing safety. So I think it's important. This is a tough topic, but I think it's important to really kind of drive home how important ice safety is this time of year. And you had, I'll just let you tell your story.
I had the most wonderful person in my life, Jim Hudson, who was a friend of yours as well.
Absolutely.
I did not grow up fishing. I did not know anything about ice fishing till I met him. We got married in 2005. He taught me all about ice fishing, and he had an amazing guide service, taught me all about Lake Superior. And he also taught me a lot about ice safety. He taught a lot of people about ice safety, not only as a fishing guide, but also as a first responder, as a police officer, because he had to be out there, helping out when emergencies happened. And in 2013, January 26th, 2013, he said goodbye to me at about 5:30 in the morning, gave me a kiss goodbye. We were in Bayfield, Wisconsin, and he went out to guide clients on Lake Superior. And he had been in a spot where the day before it had been perfectly safe. And I use that in quotes because no ice is safe. He was on his snowmobile. He went to go find some other clients that he saw in the distance. And unfortunately, his snowmobile went through and he passed away after about 45 minutes in the water. His friends tried to get him out, our very, very good friends. It was an accident. Things happen. At the time, it was the day before. It was, and I mean in quotes, safe ice. And he was pulled out. They tried to revive him. Various things happened. They took him to Duluth, one ditch effort, and unfortunately he did pass away. But and I've told this story for so long that I don't want anyone to think I'm not emotional about it. It's not that I'm not. I've worked through that.
Absolutely. And you've been very candid about that too, which I think I really appreciate it. But people that have gone through experiences like what you've gone through, similar to what you've gone through, I think it's very helpful that you're candid, you're vocal, you're outspoken, and you've done a TED Talk. Mm-hmm. So you've really helped a lot of people, and I commend you for that. One of the reasons why I reached out to you is you did a live stream recently, talking about ice safety, and I know this is important for you to talk about. Jim and I worked quite extensively with the Next Bite, and I was also doing a lot of videography for Ice Team. I was doing their ice shows, so I got to know Jim very, very well. And as you know, Jim and I, once in a while, we'd butt heads. There was, that because what was wonderful about Jim is, he really had a good eye and good ideas, and he was kind of the leader on our ice shoots, for the Next Bite, for Ice Team. He's the one, I was thinking about this yesterday, he's the one that got me all set up with my ice fishing gear, through Clam. Like, he really was like, hey, this guy needs to be, set up, and that's the reason I still have my very expensive astronaut suit, I call it,
That's a really good way to put it.
But I just remember that, and it was obviously it was a traumatic experience for you. It was for me as well. I'll never forget the funeral, and that was how much of a mess I was. And it really, really hit home for me, that something like that could happen, and it could happen to Jim. That means that it could happen to anyone. anyone. You can't take, in my opinion, you can't take enough precautions on the ice. And to segue into that, you were talking in your live stream recently about float suits. And kind of go into that. Everybody pretty much has a float suit now, wouldn't you say? And if you could talk about what a float suit is and
Yeah. So first of all, like we talked about before, it's not that I'm an expert on ice safety at all. I just know where to find the information and get to as many people as I can. One of the reasons I'm so interested in ice safety, well, two of the reasons I'm very interested in ice safety is because I saw with Jim, and I am not, it was an accident. However, there were various safety measures that he didn't necessarily take because he was so used to it. And so I really encourage people, first responders, guides, everyone who is out, they are so used to being out on the ice or any situation. And they think, oh, I have to hurry up, or I haven't gotten enough sleep. Or I just need to get to this client. They don't necessarily take the same safety precautions they would have if this was something new. So that's one of the reasons I'm such an evangelist for safety. We get used to what we do and we don't take the precautions that we should necessarily. The second reason is because of float suits, like I talked about. Float suits, and I jokingly say, make us dumber. And I don't think it's really that they make us dumber, but I think from what I've seen, and I can be guilty of this as well. This is not me preaching like I'm perfect or something. And
I don't think anybody would, if you of anybody can really speak to this,
Float suits are great, 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 great things. However, you shouldn't be out walking on ice that is extremely questionable just because you have flotation. First of all, you can be fine. Whatever, you'll go in. However, that doesn't mean that you're going to keep warm. That doesn't mean people don't have to come get you, who are first responders, who then have to put their lives at risk. So thinking to yourself, why am I doing this? Am I doing this because I want to look cool on social media because I'm the first one who's out on the ice? That's a huge thing.
That's a big, big deal. And what happens, I'm noticing as I learn more about YouTube, I'm an old man now, and like YouTube's like the thing for the kids, so it's taken me a long time to figure all this out, but it's like things will start trending, and it's those trending topics, those trending things like, I don't know, first ice, that you can get, boom, the views just like, can go through the roof. So it's an incentive for these guys to, I'm going to get out on the ice early because I can get a bunch of views, and it freaks me out.
It's the whole factor. It's the whole part of our culture right now and going forward of getting whatever is the most views. And it's almost as if it's a psychological addiction. Mm-hmm. Like I want to be able to get the most. Like I have to beat that algorithm. And I come from this as from a marketing perspective as well. For a very long time, that's what I did. I figured out how to help people reach the most people on social media. This would be a specific instance. I wouldn't tell somebody to go on first ice, but I would look at the list of things that were trending, and this would be a huge one, which of course would make me livid.
Yeah, here's the reality, and I didn't mean to cut you off there. You're basically, okay, great, you got a float suit. But the ice is thin, you break through. Now you're also putting other people's lives in danger, because they got to come out and rescue you. And I mean, it's just a very selfish thing to do in many respects.
Right. And so it is selfish, and it is, they're not keeping you warm. Yeah,
you look at a float suit and the thing, I'm kind of amazed by it, how it's just nothing really.
Right.
It's just mostly air. That's the whole idea behind it, right? It's supposed to have pockets of air in there to.
Right. So. And this sounds really morbid, but if you're by yourself in a place where nobody knows you are, and you go through and you are kept afloat, you're going to die of hypothermia.
Right. Yeah. I've seen people go out. What's the recommended ice thicknesses that they tell you? Do you know though? Is it 4 inches of clear ice to walk on? Okay.
So some say 3, some say 4, some say 6.
I'm all for 6.
Yeah, exactly. Like it is it's your comfort level,
Right.
honestly. I weigh not enough to be a problem on 4 inches of ice.
Yeah.
So 4 inches for me,
Yeah.
even 3,
Yeah.
I am comfortable on that.
If it's clear, and what that means
clear,
is it's good. It's frozen well, I guess, and you know.
You can see right through it, and it's clear, and I'm close to shore, and I have my picks with me. I have my throw rope with me. I am with at least 2 other people. Like you have that nebulous. My boyfriend makes fun of me because I carry it in my car with me everywhere.
So that's the thing. So ice safety, the tools, what do you need? You know, you're going out on, early ice. Just in general.
First of all, make sure someone knows where you're going. Second, have a person with you. Then picks and know how to use them. That's the thing people don't totally figure out is, you can have picks, the things that go around you. But if you don't know how to use them and you're in a situation where you're panicking, that's the wrong time to be figuring them out. So just know how to use them, know where they are. A throw rope, have a throw rope with you. Flotation, if you can, a nebulous or something like that.
And what is a nebulous? Explain that.
A nebulous is a flotation device for either yourself or for an ATV, snowmobile, any of those.
You can hook it up to you can hook it up to the snowmobile or the ATV. So if it goes in, it'll float the whole thing, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And there's some, I don't know exactly the weight ratio. Some machines you can have 1, some you need 2, but that's something they can check with Nebulous with. But those are the things to have. Okay.
What I think is really very, very interesting and says a lot about who you are as a person, how strong you are. This tragedy happened to you, and a lot of people would have went in the completely opposite direction. You would have never wanted to see the ice. A lot of people would have I don't want to see a frozen anything, and you went the opposite direction. You became an ice angler.
Well, the crazy thing was I was always the photographer.
Mm-hmm.
I was always the one taking pictures of Jim. I was always the one out taking ice fishing photos. However, and I was kind of ice fishing on the side, I call it, but it wasn't that wasn't my focus. My focus literally was with the camera. So when Jim passed away, the crazy thing was I was never afraid of the ice or ice fishing, and it never occurred to me not to ice fish. His entire being of what he taught me of everything was about Lake Superior, about the lake, about the water. And that I knew that accidents happened, and what had happened to him was purely an accident. A few weeks after he passed away, it was the most terrifying moment of my life because I didn't know how I was going to react. I stepped out onto the Madeline Island Ice Road, which is the road in between Bayfield and Madeline Island. And the kids get to school that way. They drive their snowmobiles to school. They take a van to school. The school bus goes, that's how people get back and forth. And I ran the 3 miles on the ice across. And the crazy thing was where he went in, I watched the entire way to Madeline Island.
Oh, wow.
That point was when I decided I was not going to be afraid.
That's really a testament to who you are, as a person. I mean, you are from the north. It's like I see your posts. I mean, it's like in your blood, Like some people,
really is.
I mean, and it's just who you are, and you didn't let that tragic event change that about you, I have no doubt you would kick my ass severely out ice fishing if we went. I mean, seriously, I see you're in it's the Women on Ice, right? You're with that group.
Well, that's the crazy thing. So I didn't go ice fishing again because I always equated ice fishing as being Jim's. That was his thing. That's what he did best. And I never realized until quite a few years later, which is a different story, how much he taught me. I didn't completely understand, but I also was very uncomfortable going ice fishing by myself because, well, first of all, I shouldn't go by myself, but I didn't know who to go with.
Right.
Obviously, he had lots of friends, guides who wanted me to go with, but it was a little intimidating.
Sure.
So my friend Barb Carey, who was a friend of Jim's, in the next winter said, "Hey, I'm thinking of doing this project with women ice anglers. You should come up." I said, "Okay." Like the light bulb went off and it was incredible. So we went up to Lake of the Woods and did a women's ice fishing event up there, and I bawled my eyes out. Well, and I wasn't because I was scared. I wasn't scared at all. I mean, we were in very interesting conditions with a blizzard and a bunch of stuff. And Barb and the girls, the women, thought I was scared of the ice. No, why I was bawling my eyes out was I had never ice fished with anyone other than Jim.
Oh, wow.
So it was all of a sudden I was there as an independent angler.
Right.
And I remember we were on the Canadian side. I was catching crappies, huge crappies. And I'm just I know what I'm doing, setting everything up. And I stopped and I started crying again. It was a very emotional trip.
Things just started coming back, like, and it was like,
I knew what I was doing.
Yeah, it's like you were channeling Jim,
stupid.
right?
Yeah.
It
sounds stupid, but when you're married to someone who is so good at what he does,
yeah.
you taught me a ton. But also, I was just there taking photos. But I mean, I would fish as well, but it was never my focus. And then just doing things intuitively and catching fish, it's suddenly, I do know what I'm doing.
Right. And then it
was definitely interesting.
And then it just kind of snowballed from there. Like, and it's become something that you really look forward to doing every winter.
Yeah, it is if I could ice fish year round, I would. The colder it is, the happier I am. And I've always been like that, which is really funny that now this is what I do. It's my passion, and I love teaching people about it because it's just so unusual. For those of us who are in the ice fishing world, don't see how unusual it is and see how social. They don't see the folklore behind it and the really cool, interesting stories that happen out on the ice or the characters that are involved. And so to introduce people, especially women, to this and say, you know what, if you want to learn to fish, this is actually a really great way to do it because you don't need a boat. The equipment, really, you can borrow stuff from other people. I mean, there's so many different layers to it. Yeah. It's awesome.
And that's what I've seen, too, with ice fishing, is that a lot of people do it that really don't do I mean, I've been surprised by this. They don't really, I wouldn't say maybe a lot of ice anglers, but there's a pretty good group that actually don't even open water fish.
Right.
That they just live for the hard water, season.
Yeah.
When I moved back up to Minnesota, I was like fascinated by that. I'm like, you're really looking forward to, and then I got to know ice fishing better, and I love to fish for anything, but ice fishing is great. Yeah, people that don't have a boat, it's just like the lake with enough thick ice is accessible to everybody.
It is very much an equalizer.
Yeah.
It really is, because you can. And I also am with a group of people who love teaching each other with ice fishing tips and that kind of thing. But really, you can just walk out and somebody will help you.
Yeah, it's awesome. So where are you looking forward to going this ice season? What's on your list?
Well, hilariously, I am going on it's sort of a dream trip. But I am going to the St. Paul Ice Fishing Show.
And that is when, by the way? When is that?
It is the first full weekend of December. I think it's December 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Okay.
It's late this year.
Okay.
So I am doing that, and then I am going on a road trip to Devil's Lake, North Dakota.
Fantastic fishery.
Where I'm fishing, which is, I think, where we filmed. Were you there for the Next Bite one?
Sorry, I had to get a sip of beer here.
Oh no.
Yes, I'm almost positive I was on that. Yeah.
Well, that's on top of our. So first of all, we're going to Devil's Lake to fish, which asterisk, that's top of our list to move.
Yeah.
Devil's Lake.
It's an amazing fishery.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
it just keeps on pumping out fish.
It's crazy. So I'm doing that, Devil's Lake, North Dakota, and then I am going to the Fargo Ice Show, which is the next weekend.
Okay, cool.
And I'm helping run the women's roundtable there and some other stuff. So I'm going to go work for the Fargo Ice Show.
Okay.
And whenever I say Fargo Ice Show, I sound like I'm from Canada.
Well, it's very close, you know.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about that trip. And then we're going to do some urban fishing. I'm learning all about the Milwaukee Harbor,
Oh,
the
goodness.
urban fishery.
That's
totally different.
incredible. I did a shoot there with Mark Zona before it froze. It was in the fall, but it was in the harbor. It's insane what goes on there.
Yeah.
The brown trout are just.
From our house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's 5 minutes from our house.
Oh, wow.
It's awesome. And even in pre-ice, so I'll take the K-drill and the Vexilar, drill holes and fish from the dock because it's only like an inch of ice. Mm-hmm. But the browns are in there, so I might as well target them.
Yeah, they're not just browns. I mean, they're giant, like the most massive, typed jaws, just slovenly browns you'll ever see in your life, and they're right in the harbor.
Yeah, right there. And they're so smart. It's ridiculous.
Are they really?
Oh, yeah. It's because people have been pressuring them so much.
That makes sense. Yeah, I'm seeing more and more people doing that, but I don't blame them. I've never seen such incredibly big brown trout before. So you started this Life is Short movement.
Right.
And I'm loving your logos, by the way. If I haven't liked your page, I will do it right after we get off with this podcast. But I love the logo. I love what you're doing. You've always got a great eye for that. Tell me about what is the Life is Short movement.
Okay, so one of the ways that we've talked about how I talk about all of this and I have no problem with it. One of the reasons that I was able to move forward was because I embraced the story of what happened and the lessons that came from it. In all of my speaking gigs or any of my travels, I've met other people who have had tragedy come from it. And the people who have really moved forward and embraced that life is short are the ones who tell the stories of what has happened to them. So I'm really, really encouraging people to tell the stories of what happened in their life from, losing a job, losing a spouse, losing a pet, any of these things. So what came from that? What made you realize that life is truly short and I've got to do what I do to be happy, to feel loved, to feel successful, and to really embrace that? And the way I've done it is through ice fishing. It's also by helping other people tell their stories because they don't realize that someone is going to hear that story and need to hear it.
You've been kind of you're an expert in social media. And so what's beautiful about this, and I keep harping about this too, YouTube and social media, is that for the first time ever, I'm in my basement right now. People have a voice that can really resound across the world. You have a chance. Before you had to pay for airtime. There's all these things that you had to do. Now you can really reach people with your message through social media, through YouTube, these platforms. It's really exciting, and that's what you're doing with this movement. And it's so powerful because here's the reality: the older you get, you just hear more stories. You start to go, gosh, life really is short. And I mean, I know it's hit me here in the last few years. I also think, and I know this is what you're talking about as well, is it is super important that people know that there's other people out there that have been through similar experiences.
It is very important because people do, as connected as we are, we feel alone because we feel that we might be the only one who's going through that. And especially when people aren't true about what's going on in their lives, not in terms of sharing too much information, but if they appear as if everything is fine in their life, other people look at it and go, I must be totally alone. And that couldn't be further from the truth. We're humans. We have shared human experiences. And because of social media, that can be a power for good when you find out, okay, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one who's made mistakes. I'm not the only one who has had tragedy happen. I'm not the only one who really wants to take the story that I have and help other people. because that was, for me, that was a huge turning point. For years, I felt very guilty about using the story that I had with Jim as a platform, because it almost appeared to me as if I was like monetizing what had happened to him. But that wasn't it at all. What was when I realized that people needed to hear what I had to say, and that even if they didn't tell me, someone else would tell me, hey, that really did help me, or you don't know how much you helped this person. That was a huge to me, because I no longer felt like I should shut my mouth. I felt like, no, I should help tell these stories, not just my own, but other people's.
You hear a lot of negatives about social media. Oh, how many likes have I gotten, you know, and the glam of like Instagram, everybody, they're jumping through the meadow, you know, it's like, yeah, you know, everybody's a model and, you know, like in bikinis in Las Vegas, you know. And there's that aspect of social media, which I think could maybe it's a corrosive part of society, you know, social media. But like what you're doing with social media, I would definitely say that's a positive. That's on the positive end of things, just kind of fighting the whole everything's great.
Oh, and I see those things and I lose it. I absolutely lose it. The worst thing that I can see on some, and I hate being judgmental, but it's true. If I see a perfect Instagram feed, I'm out.
They're cooking a perfect meal. You ever seen those? It's like perfectly lit, you know, and it's like, you know.
Well, and people think that's reality.
And they're in like in a French villa. Oh, just got done. You know, it's like, or whatever. I don't know. No. You know, I've always been of the, and I kind of find myself once in a while kind of you know, putting two, like, I've always been. Do you remember the show Real World on MTV when it first came out? I'm talking when it first came out. I love that show.
Yeah.
I love that show because I'm like, oh man, this is like real. They're really getting real. I mean, that sounds like nonsense now. That, you know, this is before I really got it. I really like that very candid, down to earth, just cut through the crap. You know, right. And so that's what I like to see on social media. That's what I like to see in a fishing show. That's what I'm trying to do here with Angling Uploaded and whatnot. But I know we're we're cut from the same cloth there. Some of your posts where you kind of let loose, I'm like, hell yeah, Hannah. Right. You know,
my filter went far away.
Yeah, you know. So I love that I know that there's so many people out there that we all have different experiences, whatnot, but there's so much that we have in common. I think we have far more in common than not. And so we all have bad things happen to us, and we all feel alone. And I think at times, and I think when someone like yourself can speak openly and just put it all out there, not be afraid to really say how you feel, but also just kind of get into the stuff that's harder to talk about. That can really, really help people. I think highly of you for doing that. And I don't know how much time this camera has on the card, and I would hate if any of this got cut off, so we should probably start to like wrap this up. But just tell me, again, where people can find you, where can they find your platforms, and anything else you want to plug?
Just look for lifeisshortmovement.com. That's the website for Life is Short Movement. You can look me up on Instagram. It's Hannah Stonehouse Hudson. Facebook, it's Hannah Stonehouse Hudson. Any of the above. And I'm around, so come find me.
Awesome.
And I just love to talk about all this.
Well, I appreciate it very much, Hannah. It's been too long since we've talked, but like I said, I think very highly of you, and I hope to go ice fishing with you
yes, come
soon.
to Milwaukee.
Yeah, I'd love. I got a buddy who is actually there. He's been this fall. You know, I don't know if he's ice fishing. I think it's probably still open water over there. But catching just amazing brown. So yeah, I'd love to do that. Maybe we need to do another fishing show episode.
That would be awesome.
Because what we need for that is like characters, you know, and just cool
I have
story.
plenty of those.
Yeah, and then throw in some giant brown trout. My buddy Pete and I were just used to catching these like little stream brown trout. You know, I see those. I'm like, how could it even be the same species?
Oh, it's the craziest thing I've ever like in my life. And when you come, we will have to do a 1-day open water and ice fishing. That's our favorite thing to do. So we'll take the boat out and troll or jig. Okay. And then in the afternoon we'll ice fish.
So how does that happen? So how can you do both?
Because we went 12 months in a row trolling. Because south of where we are open boat ramps. Okay. So we go and we go fish and then we ice fish.
Okay. Gotcha. Sorry for my ignorance, but so when's a good time?
That's fine. It was mind blowing to me.
So when's a good time to do that? Like, when do you think would be the best time to set up something like that?
Probably February.
February? Okay.
Yeah. February would be awesome because you get some days which is like 38 to 40 degrees and it's calm and you just go out and you go fish and then it's also nice in the harbor and it's perfect.
Awesome. So follow Hannah. She's doing amazing, amazing stuff. Of course, subscribe to Angling Uploaded. What else do I need to tell everybody to do here, Hannah? I got to be better at this. Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Share our stuff.
Share our stuff. Like, comment. I think I've got every comment. You got to comment. That's good for the algorithm or something, right?
Yes, they like comments.
Okay. All right. Really appreciate you watching. And again, check out all of Hannah's stuff. Lifeisshortmovement.com, right? Lifeisshortmovement.com. We will see you later.